Hello, this is Fernando Labastida with Martechify. We're a connected community of marketing professionals, and what we're really trying to do here is to interview top marketers at corporations through their expert insights on cutting edge marketing technology, solving specific challenges. And today we're very happy, we're very honored actually to have Manu Aggarwal, who is the Vice President of Marketing at OnTrack. Manu, welcome.
Thanks, Fernando. It's great to be here. I'm excited to be here and spend some time with you.
Okay, fantastic, fantastic. Well, it's really exciting to talk to you because first of all, this is you work for OnTrack, which is sort of in a space which is sort of near and dear to my heart. I've been helping companies in the logistics area specifically recently, and I know that OnTrack would have been was probably a perfect solution for companies during COVID, to avoid situations like we had with the toilet paper shortage, right? With that last mile delivery. Could you tell us a little bit, just briefly, about what OnTrack does in that regard, in the sort of like the last mile logistics for e-commerce companies?
Yeah, absolutely. So OnTrack is, covers, like you said, the last mile part of the e-commerce journey. And so when somebody clicks and buys a product online from a retailer, OnTrack handles that final step of delivering it to your doorstep. And my thing is, I started during the pandemic. No one really, I would call it, cared. Let's call it about supply chain and logistics until the pandemic started. And now you're seeing a lot more eyes and ears and certainly investment in the space after kind of as we get out of the pandemic. But OnTrack kind of works with a lot of retailers, both larger omni-channel enterprise retailers and growing direct-to-consumer brands, to handle that last mile delivery part of the purchase experience.
Okay, perfect. So so you're deeply into this sort of this growing startup ecosystem of DTC brands that are coming in and kind of sweeping the market with newer and cooler value propositions. So as such, as the VP of marketing, I was wondering if you could kind of, give us a little bit of an insight into your marketing strategy, taking into consideration, all the modern technologies that you're leveraging today at OnTrack to really approach this market, to generate your pipeline for OnTrack.
Yeah, that's a great question. Obviously, as the leader of the marketing team, and we're trying to generate pipeline and sales opportunities for our sales leaders to close business. And when I started, I was the only full-time marketing hire about 4.5 years ago now, and so I had to kind of come in and build the infrastructure, the marketing channels, kind of from scratch almost to support our growth and kind of build the foundations of being able to generate a healthy pipeline for our sales team. So, things that, we've invested in over the course of the last, let's call it 4.5-ish years, have been, and this might sound kind of really fundamental, but, building a proper, website using the right marketing tech stack to support it. We've invested in a CRM like Salesforce, but also just optimizing it the way we need it. I think Salesforce is a beast, and it can take a lot of time and certainly resources from marketing teams. From some companies I've been a part with have their own kind of Salesforce development team and ecosystem within the company. But I think to us, Salesforce is like the CRM. I think still gold standard. And I know there are a lot of other tools that are out there. They're trying to kind of pick off their heels. But for us, it was more importantly about how can we see a 360 view of our customers, both from awareness and kind of when they enter our pipeline, but also beyond that, right? Of how do we see what kind of our upsell opportunities, are we tracking that through Salesforce, for example? Are we tracking, not only do they go to events that we're throwing kind of and sponsoring beforehand, before they become a customer, but even some of our events after the customer, and really tracking that customer journey from beginning to, hopefully not a very soon end, but end at some point where we can understand the various touch points and interactions they've had with our brand and our company. We've invested in marketing automation tools, like a HubSpot is the one we use, but there's other ones that are out there that we leverage as well to help create more personalized email sequences, give us some more marketing intelligence to help our sales team, but also keep our current customers engaged. And we've also invested in account-based marketing tools. The one we use right now is demand-based. And so that gives us insight into intent signals and helps us close more deals faster with our sales team and kind of give us the fuel we need to power some of our one-to-one and our one-to-few ABM campaigns. And also gives us some competitive intelligence. So if a customer of ours potentially is looking at another last mile delivery provider or another solution, can we step into that conversation and prevent churn using a solution like demand-based?
Yeah, demand-based being, one of the original ABM tools. In fact, I think they maybe even coined the term, I believe, account-based marketing. So that's fantastic. That's fantastic. So in your LinkedIn profile, Manu, you talk about generating a $250 million pipeline with 11,000 leads, 380% increase in ARR. So I was wondering if you can kind of get into a little bit about how you're able to achieve that with, what you just described to me, your tech stack and also your marketing strategy.
Absolutely, and I think those are the course of my career. Certainly not only at the current place I work, but one of the things that I've tried to do for sure, and this is, I would call it tech agnostic, but really understand and kind of talk to our customers and understand what are the pain points that we're solving for them, and obviously build out the value proposition, positioning, and messaging to help scale that. And that's where we, I think, leverage technology, right? Is how can we do things at scale? I've never been fortunate enough to work in really large marketing teams. I've worked at startups and even larger enterprises, but with very small marketing teams. So for me, a lot of the Martech stack that we use just gives us leverage and enables us to, create things at scale and create marketing programs and channels at scale that are going to get in front of our target audience and our customers and generate that pipeline that we need. And so I think, for example, in a previous role where we grew ARR almost 400%, we did a pretty conscious deep dive into our customers, ran automation entirely through Salesforce from tracking pipeline and building a marketing automation stack around Salesforce and using Pardot and Salesforce together, to even integrating DocuSign and customer agreements being signed through Salesforce in an automated fashion. So we have all that customer data and kind of see that entire customer journey in one place as a source of truth. So whether it's me going into Salesforce, our CEO, or even somebody on the sales team, they can see from start to finish when this lead or when this prospect became a customer, how long this customer has been with us, any type of changes to their agreement. And so we kind of leverage technology to help us scale quickly, but also in that instance use it as a way to kind of manage our customer marketing and be that source of truth that we need to help grow the business.
Yeah, so what I really like what you just talked about is being able to have that sort of 360-degree view of the customer and being able to is to identify where they might be getting stuck, where you might be losing your customers, where you could kind of grease the wheel, so to speak, to kind of make a certain process more efficient, or where you need to maybe assign resources to get things going. I was wondering if you could maybe elaborate a little bit more on what are some of the challenges you've had with kind of trying to build this 360-degree view of customers, from your different roles that you've had, while kind of managing a skeleton crew, like you mentioned before.
Yeah, I think, one of the challenges we see is how do we integrate all of our kind of just various marketing tools together, right? I think some of these roles have been a little bit further, or previous roles, so the integration options might not have been as prevalent back then. But for example, if you're leveraging a marketing automation tool, right? How can we kind of build that into our ecosystem where it's solving the goals that we need from a marketing perspective, but also from like a business KPI perspective, right? So in terms of bringing on technology, I'm also not trying to see if they can solve only marketing goals, but can we also use our tech stack and leverage the marketing tech stack to kind of solve overall business challenges and kind of measure overall business KPIs with it. And I think one of the challenges I've seen just throughout my career is just the integration with tools, especially now as there's so much, I feel like every day, every week I'm reading up on a new tool that seems to be pretty interesting and something that we could invest in, but I think just the ecosystem is really fragmented and there's a lot out there. And so what we're looking to do, and certainly what I'm trying to understand going forward, are there better tools that help us integrate kind of what we're trying to accomplish from a marketing perspective that are, quite honestly, less expensive alternatives than to the tools and tech stack that we have now that we can deploy with relative ease, and it's not going to be, a 30, 60 or quarter long implementation before we actually can start realizing value out of the tool. And again, based off my experience, the more enterprise level, the more expensive the tool, the larger bloat it creates within the organization and the greater the expectation and oftentimes maybe falls short. So as we head into 25, what I'm looking to do is see where we can not just trim budget, but also adopt the right tools that we need that may not be as expensive, but get us to better outcomes.
Well, I mean, I'm actually kind of glad you provided the segue to my next line of questioning. And first of all, I just want to make a comment. I think it's really ironic, tools that were designed for larger enterprises to make things more efficient, how they kind of also take a lot more time and create more bloat. I think that's kind of a contradiction in their mission to help companies like OnTrack and others to make their marketing more efficient and get insights and produce results more quickly. So budgets and talking about making your tech stack more efficient and more agile. I was wondering if you could kind of give us any insights into what you with OnTrack are looking to do in 2025 in that regard.
Yeah, and I think, number one, understand what our go-to-market tech stack is and where are some other opportunities that we can enhance it. I think, for example, we have an intent-based tool, an account-based marketing tool, but that kind of looks at maybe a specific segment of intent. Are there tools out there that kind of unifies the consumer journey? So if I know that, for example, there's a LinkedIn post that we published and somebody read that, went to our website, checked out a page on our website, and kind of understands that entire 360 customer journey view. Those are some of the things that I'm looking to do and kind of creating a more unified view, holistic view of our GTM and kind of that customer journey, so we can create more personalized, relevant experiences to help out with that. I think some of the other things we're looking at is just how do we create more context, not necessarily more content, because there's obviously a ton of content that's out there, and I'm looking to create just more high quality, relevant context with our sales prospects and our ICP and our target audience, with a unique POV. And so again, are there tools that can help me provide personalization, create more relevant personal experiences to buyers in our target audience, where we can clearly relay our value proposition of our services and solutions, but in a much more personalized and contextually relevant way than just like, hey, let me just send a case study of a company that we worked with in a similar industry, right? Like I think, that might have worked 3, 4, 5 years ago, but I think now folks need that relevant context to actually maybe go forward or proceed faster through a sales cycle.
Yeah, there was actually a book published a couple of years ago called The Context Marketing Revolution that talked exactly about the point that you're making right now. So I don't know, let's just take an example. Your ICP, I think, are e-commerce companies, DTC brands, maybe even retailers. I was wondering if you can maybe compare and contrast how you would contextualize some of your customer experience deliveries depending on who the ICP is, what journey they've been on, etc. So what are you looking at doing in that regard, and what are you currently doing, and how are you looking at changing that?
Yeah, I think what we're looking to do is just obviously create more customer marketing opportunities with our existing customer set, but also for prospective buyers, how can we show that we've solved similar problems to companies in your industry, and kind of not just send a case study, but are there ways that we can leverage like a video on top of that case study that highlights those specific KPIs and pain points that they're experiencing, and how we've used that to solve their problems with our solutions, and the impact and the effect that it's had. And so I think that's just one tool that we're using. I think what we're also trying to understand is how can we just gain more mind share kind of with our respective opportunities for brands and retailers to understand kind of what their pain points are a little bit better, but also how we can get our marketing tech stack to pick up on those opportunities sooner and faster. And so, like most marketers, we work with sales and have our list of accounts, but I think what has been interesting is seeing other opportunities that have surfaced that maybe are not on our list through various marketing technologies, and say, hey, these folks are actually interested in something that we're offering. Let's qualify that prospect, and then get our outbound motions and kind of our marketing and sales motions going to understand if this person seems to be like a qualified prospect for us. How can we kind of close that person and get in front of that person faster to make it, again, more personalized, more contextual, based off kind of what they've done from maybe a content consumption standpoint, right? If they checked out our website, read our white paper, if they're clearly showing interest and signals in what we have to offer, maybe then we can proceed with our outreach with some of that intelligence that we're looking to kind of incorporate into our marketing tools.
Oh, perfect. So yeah, so you've mentioned in terms of marketing tools that you're using Salesforce as your CRM, HubSpot as your automation, demand base for your ABM. As far as you can, obviously, taking into consideration, where you are in various stages of looking at various vendors. But I was wondering if you could maybe, dig into a little bit about the tools that you're looking at, maybe ones that you've already decided to implement that can help you do some of these things.
Yeah, I think that's a great, we're always looking at opportunities to optimize our tech stack. I think something like I can't speak to, I'm not getting paid to recommend these tools, but I think that they're certainly interesting. One's called Common Room, I think is an interesting one, where, again, going back to unifying GTM signals and understanding kind of that customer journey beyond just what somebody's researching online or when they hit our website, like a normal intent-based signal, like a success or domain-based does. Another one's, I think, called Unified GTM, and that same thing, similar vein. But I also think there's other tools that are out there that, solve, I would call, specific channel problems and challenges that we have. So, for example, we're going to invest more in video, I think, over the next course of, over the next couple of years, I'm sure, as obviously video has become the more engaging medium. But are there tools that we can leverage to help us edit videos faster at scale than some of the typical tools that we have now? And I know there's a ton out there, but those are things that I think we're looking at to do. So very specific executionally based tools that can help us just do our jobs better and faster, as opposed to kind of very large, enterprise level, maybe longer sales cycle type tools as well. So it's a combination, I think, of both of them. And as a marketer, and honestly, just in the environment that we're in, I think it's very interesting where we don't want to be overspending on tools that may not give us the best return, or certainly overpromise and maybe underdeliver in certain cases. And throughout my career, I think I've had a few of those use cases where we've invested in tech tools that seem to be great, but just aren't the best fit for us. I'm sure there could be great fits for other companies, and that's great, but for our use case, seemingly just didn't work out. So I think it's also being cautious of where are we spending those dollars, as you only get a certain amount of asks every year, and so the ones you do propose to your leadership or to your C-suite, you want to be confident and that they can drive results, not just for marketing, but also for the business.
And it's just also ironic, there's so many ironies in this whole space. If you harken back to 1999, 2000, when Salesforce.com was just getting started as sort of like the antidote to Siebel because of its really long implementation times, and sometimes, Siebel implementations would not even get finished, and, there'd be recriminations and people getting fired, and then, that's why they came up with Salesforce. And, it's kind of ironic that kind of dynamic is still going on. But it's sort of heartening to hear you talk about that you're looking for tools that are faster implementation, lower price points, etc. So did you mention, one of those tools you mentioned, was it Customer Room? Is that what you called it?
It was called Common Room, so you can kind of measure, GTM signals across the ecosystem. So you can see who's looked at a LinkedIn post, might have been to your pricing page, and kind of understand signals from multiple channels, and not just like, hey, they went to my website, or they're researching like an intent topic that is relevant to us. So it just gives you more intelligence and insight. And then also some things that you can take that and send out an outbound sequence or LinkedIn DM message because of that activity, right? So I think some of those tools that kind of unify a lot of what I would think GTM professionals are, whether in revenue, whether in sales and marketing, et cetera, are looking at to help get like a more complete picture of what your customer or prospect is actually doing across the web.
Okay, great. So what are you looking at this year or next year in terms of AI and AI-driven automation and customer data management, and even you mentioned about execution tools like video production, and I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that's powered by AI. But I was just kind of wondering if you could kind of talk to the point of leveraging AI with your for your future marketing efforts.
I kind of take the AI question with a bit of a grain of salt, because I feel like every tool now has some like level of AI component already built in. So I feel like we already are leveraging AI. We might not even be knowing that we're leveraging the AI, but I think we are. But like I said, I kind of take a bit of caution in terms of this tool that leverages AI and promises the world, and there's just such a proliferation of AI-based tools are out there right now that it's kind of hard to understand, like, how do you separate, the ones that are actually going to work for you and you're, again, going back to context, like your specific use case versus just, the noise that's seemingly out there in the marketplace. For me, obviously, leveraging scale and kind of being able to leverage AI to just enables us to execute on tasks faster. Whether it's video creation, whether it's content creation, etc. Those are all things I think that are going to be important. But I look at AI as more of an enabler, not like the replacement to like anybody or anything. It gives us the ability to create leverage within our small marketing team. But everything in AI that we do, we always have like a fairly large or fairly strong human review component to it as well. So it's not just let me throw something into an AI tool and see what it outputs, but like there has to be some level of human review here as well. So I'm sure as things get more sophisticated and as time goes by, that level of human review might go down significantly. But at least for now, to me, it's almost like managing another team member of, hey, like I have this AI tool, it's going to produce this output for me, but I still need to review it, still need to make sure it's on brand, still need to make sure it's communicating our POV the right way. And, at that point, can we ship it off?
Yeah, exactly. And just to kind of like paraphrase it and see if I understood exactly what you were saying is you're kind of using AI as a way of sort of repurposing or amplifying what your current message is and what you're trying to communicate to customers, through video, through written content, maybe even audio, etc.
Exactly. And I think that's, a great use case for it, where AI tools can just help repurpose content that you're creating across different mediums and channels. And so I think I'm sure tools that are out there that do that, but that's kind of one of the use cases that we're looking at AI to accomplish. Okay,
great. So I wanted to pivot a little bit, because one of the things that we were originally interested in talking to you about are, some of those pitfalls and misfires in Martech. In terms of building that $250 million pipeline, not just on OnTrack, but, across some of your previous roles. What are some of those sort of hard lessons that you've had to learn the hard way, Manu?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, it goes back to, it kind of just goes back to context for me, right? And I think a lot of these tools, promise the world, and some tools are great and they do a really amazing job. But if you don't take the time and the energy and have the bandwidth to actually understand the tool and see how it can fit within your use case and implement it the right way, honestly, then I think there's a lot that's left on the table and a lot of wasted spend and just blow across your GTM that is, just money left on the table and being wasted that you could repurpose to doing other things. We've implemented marketing automation tools in many rules that, in some cases they work great, other cases completely the wrong fit. And, we signed a year-long contract, 4 months in, realized this is not the great fit for us. So it's like, okay, what do we do for the next 8 months, and we still leveraged it, but like there's certain instances like that where, we've been involved with that, how do we not make the same mistake again, right? And I think a lot of times marketing teams or even many teams that invest in like Martech technology just think it's going to be a quick set it and forget it, but I think it's always a work in progress. It's not going to solve your entire problems. Just because you invest in a tool like Demandbase or 6sense doesn't mean now you have an ABM strategy, right? Like you have to continuously feed it the right inputs, make sure it's still working in your favor. Like you can't replace a tool for a strategy. That's kind of what the lesson I've learned the hard way. And you also have to execute on it, right? So I think there's just a lot of now, especially when, in this environment that we're in, where I think budgets are a lot more scrutinized and, the return on investment of these tools might be in question a little bit more. And, with the proliferation of no-code tools that are out there, it's seemingly new technologies that are hitting the market every day, I think the cost of some of these tools are going to start getting cheaper and cheaper because there are just so many other alternatives that are out there. And so I think it's just making sure that you understand and have an idea of going in that if you have a team and you're going to invest in this tool, that you need to carve out, pieces of your day and your week, especially early on, to invest in the solution to make sure it's set up the right way, it's working for you. When your manager or somebody in the C-suite needs to see, hey, what is the ROI of that tool? Like you are ready to have that conversation and you're prepared to present data and how it's impacting the org, hopefully in a positive way. But also, understand when it's renewal time, like especially this time of year, have an honest conversation, with yourself, with your team members who are using it, and say, hey, is this the best fit tool for us? If we, decided, or for whatever reason we shut it off and we had to live without it, like how would that impact your daily work? How would that impact your KPIs, both from a marketing and a business perspective? And have that understanding and conversation, right? Because it's hard to kind of go back to market and find a new tool, but it's also just as hard to continue working with something that may not be giving you the best ROI and still takes a lot of time out of your day to upkeep and manage.
You've kind of touched on something that I want to ask you in a minute, which is, the trend you're seeing with less expensive tools because there's so much competition and budgets getting tighter. But before I get into that, I was wondering if you could double click into, that scenario where you realized 4 months into it that the automation was really not a great fit for your company. And, you don't have to mention the name of the company in order to protect the innocent, but I was kind of tell me why it wasn't a great fit for your current situation at that time.
I think at that point, we were much more of a leaner startup, and the tool I think was really built for enterprise, a different kind of company than we were. Could we use, and we did use a lot of the features to it, but I think of what the tool was demanding, and we needed a developer to like create the webhooks and kind of like some of the marketing integrations that we wanted to really make the tool powerful. And at that point there's other priorities, and I think it just comes back down to everybody in the organization has competing priorities. And so how does your investment in a marketing tech stack tool either make their lives better or easier or take things off their plate? And I think if you're just adding more work to someone's day, like it's tough, right? Like it's really tough. And I think at that point we just have competing priorities, and it ended up not working out for us. I was very open with my, at that point, the CEO about it. I said, hey, this is just not working out, and we'll just we'll take the L and we'll move on and we'll find another tool. And we invested in another marketing automation tool that actually ended up working really well for us. But I think we had those hard lessons learned from our previous experience that we could say, hey, is this tool going to work for us? And had some really pointed questions during the discovery process and kind of made our vendor answer them relatively with at least the confidence that we needed, that we could say, hey, we're really confident in investing in this tool. And by the way, it's going to save us, a certain amount of money too, but it's really going to help us, create the leverage we need and help us win new business and help create a better customer experience, and kind of all the things that you want out of your marketing tool, and we can improve ROI, etc. And so I think those are some of the hard lessons that I learned, that, really understand and make sure that during your discovery process, like, you have the context you need before you make that investment, and not just, hey, we helped a company like yours in a similar industry be successful.
So given what you talked about with seeing tools getting less expensive and increased competition, that looks like as though it's the beginning of your predictions for Martech in 2025. So I was wondering if you could kind of elaborate on what you're seeing in terms of trends for 2025.
One of the things that I'm seeing, I think, is you're going to start seeing companies maybe build out their own tools in-house that are much more customizable, and kind of using their own internal resources to arrive at the solutions that they want, versus trying to kind of create a custom solution with let's call it an external vendor, and kind of leveraging their own resources to actually build out tools that I think are going to be successful for them. So trying to maybe bypass some of these larger scale enterprise-based tools with longer implementation times, and kind of understanding that make versus buy analysis, and saying, hey, can I do something that gives me, arrives at a similar outcome? Also companies potentially, adopt maybe less expensive tools with shorter implementation times, quicker realization and time to value, and tools that can really unify, I would call it the GTM experience, or kind of like that, the customer experience, where they can understand, who might be interested in our tool and in our solution based off their activity across the web, but also once I understand that, can I actually leverage that into an outbound email sequence to create more contextualized, relevant communications to my prospects. Those are some of the tools that I think are going to win going forward. I also think that you're going to start seeing kind of very specialized and niche tools that are going to dominate the market. So, for example, I think the email newsletter space is coming back, and I think there's a couple of newer entrants like a Beehive, or even obviously Substack, that are doing really great things. And I think disrupting kind of, I would call it a more of a legacy tools that are out there, like a MailChimp, or even like an Aweber, and have gained market share because I think they're kind of really innovating and creating opportunities for both at the enterprise level and even on like a personal creator level, for people to build an audience, right? And I think realizing that time to value to make it shorter is where I'm seeing the trend going forward, and less of, hey, I need a larger, more expensive enterprise level tool with a longer implementation and a lot more resources involved from a team perspective and a cross-functional perspective to stand this up and maintain.
So Manu, it was really a pleasure to have you on as a guest. Really enjoyed your insights on Martech and your predictions for 2025, and where you see the Martech trends going for 2025. And hopefully we can see you again sometime soon in a future interview. And I will see you all next time in another interview here at Martechify. Bye-bye.
Appreciate you having me.